Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harpin on Rugby preview show. Joining me today to look ahead to Friday night's match is someone back for his 22nd appearance. Welcome to Mr. Mark Jackson.
Afternoon, Jeff. How are you?
All good, Mark. Thanks for coming on. But just before we start, Mark, Leinster are six matches or 1/3 of the way through the URC schedule. In first place, 6 wins from six. Are you happy enough with things so far?
I think you have to be. It's not playing great and getting results is a sign of a good squad, good team. And there's been changes every week, some which we've liked, some which we question. But I think 6 from 6 is a good return for the start of the season. And not too much. You might have dropped a bonus point here or there, but we're ticking along nicely. The only downside I think at the moment, probably everybody would agree, would be the spate of injuries we've had, and maybe some that came back from Ireland a little bit worse for wear that we haven't seen just yet. I know 6 games into a season, most coaches would like to see all of their available top line players, but with the Ireland emerging Ireland tour taking a couple of injuries as well, I don't think we've got too much to complain about. Haven't performed to how we think we can perform, but as I said, ticking along, winning games, and getting some good experience from younger guys in the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this time last year, it was pretty much in the same boat, but there was a couple more blowouts, I suppose you could say. I mean, it's the same kind of net result. And like you say, with the emerging Ireland tour and all that could have happened there, I suppose it's not the worst position we could be in. Okay, so this week's feature match, we'll get onto that now. It is, of course, Scarlets v Leinster. It's in round 7 of the 22-23 BKT United Rugby Championship, and it's taking place at the Parky Scarlets in Llanelli on Friday, October 28th, kicking off at 7:35 p.m. It's being shown on TG Cahir, BBC Two Wales, Premier Sports 1, Super Sport, Discovery Plus, and also URC.tv, where you get all this season's matches for $6.99 a month. Leinster named their matchday squad at lunchtime on Thursday, so why don't we get harping on it, starting with the back line. So we've got at 15, Chris Cosgrove. The wings are Dave Carney and Rob Russell. The centers, Charlie Natai and Liam Turner. And the halfbacks, Luke McGrath and Ross Byrne.
Yeah, it's a sort of a split back line in terms of experience from 12 in and 13 out. 12 in, you've got your experience and your leaders in the team, and then you got some hopeful youthful exuberance in the back three and in the outside centre position with Liam Turner. I think this is a game where it could be a potential banana skin. I know the Scarlets have not been playing well, but there's a lot of names in that Leinster team that are very youthful, very callow, and you would hope when you look across the team that the middle bunch of guys from 12 down to 4 are very experienced, and you'd hope they would take on a lot of the workload this week. I'd love to see Charlie Natai step up again. I think his communication with Liam Turner in midfield, where our midfield defence hasn't been Leinster-esque, let's say, for the first 6 games. We've led a couple of, especially when we played the Italian teams, our first phase defence in the centres wasn't exactly top drawer, and then there's been some misreads there. So I hope Turner and Natai are up against a pretty experienced Scarlets duo, and we see in a second. The midfield and the back row is where this game is going to be won, as per usual with rugby, the way the modern game is. And I think the halfbacks, I really want to get off the Ross Byrne is not good enough train. I hope he steps up this week and really puts a stamp on the game from halfback with McGrath. I think those two are the two most important players in that 15 for me. Yeah. I think if they can control the game, get the back row running at the Scarlets midfield, I think Leinster should pull out a win, but it won't be easy. It won't be easy. Yeah, they got to protect that back three.
Yeah, because I mean, you just saw at the Aviva last Saturday, like when you've got Henshaw and Ringrose in the centre, just you almost take for granted that that any strike moves or whatever just going to be snuffed out at the source, and that part of the game is almost taken entirely from the team. But like you say, like in the other matches when we haven't had them, we need to keep that consistency there, and that could be somewhere where Scarlets could get an edge on us. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure. Right, we'll move on to the forwards now, and the front row we've got Ed Byrne, John McKee, Thomas Clarkson. Second row, Ross Maloney, Jason Jenkins, and the back row, Rhys Ruddock, who's the captain, Scott Penny, and Max Deegan.
Yeah, that's what I like about that pack, especially the back five, is but also with Ed Byrne, there's a leader in each row of that forwards. There's an experienced head there that, and I know like Jenkins is experienced in terms of his age and his rugby experience, but he's still only I think it's his sixth game into his Leinster career, so he's still learning the shape, but he's going out and doing what any good second row should do when he joins a new club, and he's just knocking people back for fun. He's really good around the ruck area. He's really good in the maul. I actually quite like the look. I'd love to see Max Deegan step it up again. Him and Ross Byrne are guys that have been around now for 3 or 4 seasons, have plenty of caps, and you'd hope on, you don't want to say an off week, this is not an off week, every game is important, but as I said, the banana skin here with the Scarlets, who are very strong in the back row as well. I hope that back row steps up and proves to be the leaders of this group along with the halfbacks. That where we seem to be really strong in this team is those middle parts of the back row, halfback, centre, the middle parts of the team, whereas the Scarlets' strength is probably from 13 out wide. So if those middle guys in decision-making areas at 8, 9, 10 and 12, if they can step up, I think we should be okay. I'd be interested to see how Tom Clarkson gets on. Tight head is such a specialist position, and I know he's played both sides a little bit, but if McKee's darts, which will be under pressure as we mentioned on the group chat, McKee's darts are important, but also how the Ross Maloney, Jenkins, Ruddock and Max Deegan are all genuine line-out options. Not saying Scott Penny is, but he's a little bit on the shorter side. So you've got 4 genuine line-out options, and if they can click with McKee, and hopefully the line-out hasn't been a strong point for Leinster this year so far. If they can get some good line-out ball, then I think we'll be going well.
And Scott Penny will get involved in the lineouts anyway, because he'll be in the end scoring the try, diving over, all going well with them all, and that's,
As we know, death and taxes, exactly.
That's it, exactly. Right, so that's the pack. We'll move on to the bench now, and we've got, this is where a bit of the inexperience we're talking about is coming in. We've got Tyg McElroy, Michael Milne, Vak Abdelaziz, they're the front rows, then Brian Deeney, Martin Maloney, then the backs are Nick McCarthy, Charlie Tector, and Ben Brownlee.
Yeah, as you said, the caps there are pretty callow, not a lot of caps between them, but after the Emerging Ireland Tour, Deeney came back definitely with his stock rising. Martin Maloney is a quality young player, brings a physicality to that back row that if he hadn't got it, I still think we'd see Josh Murphy in a Leinster jersey. I think the fact that we got a guy like Martin Maloney who's young can come in and can do a really good job at the 6th position. Nick McCarthy's been playing well, so if Luke McGrath has an off night, I hope Luke continues his form. He's been really good. He's been a real big plus for us this season, but Nick McCarthy getting a run at the end. I think the guys that start in that pack will be probably asked to do 5-10 minutes more than they usually do. I think you're probably looking at 60-65 minutes out of most of them. Especially on a Friday night in the Scarlets. Another thing you need to mention, like rugby is still an emotional game, and the Scarlets are celebrating their victory over the All Blacks. I think it's, I want to say 50 years, 40 years, 50 years. So they'll be up for it, they'll be bang up for it. They haven't had a lot of form. They're home on a Friday night. Friday night in Clonethley is never easy. We went to Cardiff last year, cock of the walk, and then got our backsides handed to us there. This is another potential skin like that. So this is where the bench last 15 minutes, there may be, usually rugby benches are emptied every game. There may be actually 1 or 2 guys here that may not get a run this weekend.
Yeah, but if they do, we've just been keeping track of the squad this season and the players we've used. If the likes of Detectors and McElroys and Brownlees do get on, that'll bring us to just the 46 players we've used in the first 7 matches of the season so far. But we'll be pushing that 50 even before we get to November. But yeah.
Sorry, just on that, on squad numbers, Leinster fly in the face of normal thoughts on the more players you play, the lesser down you are. It just shows you how good that academy system is of bringing guys through. Really excited to see Charlie Tector. He had a great 20 season last year and looks the part to 10.
Absolutely. Right, so let's move on to our opposition. Now, hopefully my graphics department is putting the names up on the screen below, or if you're listening in the podcast, it's in the program notes. We're up against, like I say, the Scarlets from Llanelli, who not exactly a million years ago were champions of this league, yet somehow find themselves in the lower parts of the table. Have you seen much of them this season? How do you rate them?
I've seen a bit. They flatter to deceive. The Ulster game was the one I've seen most of them in, and yeah, they couldn't defend for Toffee, but my God, they attack from sort of anywhere. The weakness in the, say, a perceived weakness, then if you want to say, with the the Scarlets since their heyday a few years ago is their front five is nowhere near as good as it used to be. Messrs. Ty Byrne obviously was a massive part of that. But you look at that back row: Shingler, Thomas, and Calamafoni. There's carriers, there's fetchers, there's destructive guys. Shingler's an excellent operator, very smart player, very good line-out option, both attack and defense. Almost Peter O'Mahony light, if you want to say, in terms of how, but he's a big influence on that team. If Calamafoni can keep his temper under a blanket as well, it might be a good thing for them. Where they look quite strong would be from 11, 12, 13, and 15. You know, Combeer is a bit of a specimen, all right. Jonathan Davis is class, even though his legs may not be as much of an influence as he was. You know, Steph Evans is a solid centre, and then Johnny McNichol, as we said, always seems to get a try or two against Leinster, and is a smart operator. You know, his basics are very good at fullback, and he can slip onto the wing as well. So where we would, I think the back rows match up quite well, actually. I don't think there's going to be too much advantage for either team. Where we probably could get a bit of an edge on that team there is, I don't know a hell of a lot about the two Price lads in the second row, I have to admit, knowing how good Maloney's been this year and how Jenkins has started. You know, the second row and our half backs, I think, are better than the Scarlets half back. So I'd like to see the second row grunt, and then some game control and management from the half backs is where I think we can get on top of this team.
Yep. I mean, we've talked about how Leinster in the first few games got off to such great starts, and we wanted to be, like last weekend, we wanted to be tested and see what it was like if we didn't, which is exactly what happened. It took us a long time to get off the board, and we finally found our stride. But again, you're away from home. If it's still 0-0, if we fall behind after half an hour with the crowd behind them, you know, it could happen that way. And like you say what you like about the regions, and we have said a lot. They know how to put out a good back row, and you know you're going to get challenged there. So they definitely could pose us some problems if we let them on Friday night. Right. So moving on to the officials now, and the referee is Andrea Piardi. Italian, and there's a couple of Welsh assistants and an Italian TMO. And the weather forecast for Llanelli on Saturday evening, it's cloudy with showers, but 50% of rain, 11 degrees. So, seems like just your average rainy Friday night in Wales, like we always talk about. Which means brings us on now to our prediction times. Put our heads on the block and see what we think is going to happen. What do you make of Scarlets against Leinster?
If the teams were slightly different and a couple of those injuries hadn't happened the last few weeks for Leinster, I'd probably have us at least 2 try favourites. This time I probably would go anywhere between maybe 6 and 10 for Leinster if those teams perform. It won't be easy, and as we said, there's a few banana skins there. But if the weather sounds exactly like, well, not exactly like, but similar to Galway when we play Connacht, and similar to Ulster when we played Ulster there, so they're not going to be alien to playing in those conditions this early in the season. Even though some of our games over here, we've been playing in 20 degrees, very dry at the end of October. It's certainly a new thing for us. But the Friday night game under lights, lots of kicking early on, I think will determine this game. And I have us, I think on our Super Brew, I think I put Leinster by 7. I might set that out to 10, but I'd certainly take a 7 or 10 point win away from home with the youthful team like that.
Yeah, I was a bit more cautious. I went for 5, thinking that we'd have the game kind of sewn up, but might let in a try or make it closer towards the end. But yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Leinster have to be favourites going into it. But as you say, banana skin is a great way of describing it, because we need to get control of it early. Okay, just another couple of predictions quickly. Munster against Ulster.
If we didn't have the E. coli gate, I'd have Ulster probably by 10. But I think this is going to be very close. This might be one week I stick a draw down on Super Brew. I can see 3 points either way for either team. I'd probably just tip Ulster on form at the moment by maybe 3-4 points.
Yeah, I went the other way. I said Munster 3, but the bookies can't separate them, and it does look like it's going to be tight. And finally, Ospreys v Connacht.
Well, those pesky, dirty birds, what are they going to do for us? Again, similar to Ulster-Munster game, that could be a 3-point win either way. But then if one team gets ahead of the other, the Ospreys can score points in bunches, and they have done, as have Connacht. I'd probably go Connacht by 5, I would say. I think Connacht by 5. I think they've come back into some form. I think that Leinster game, certainly, although they didn't score anything, they were in that game from start to finish, and they seem to have Mr. Wilkins and the forwards coach there seem to have done a little bit more with the physicality of their forwards. And I think if they match the Ospreys' physicality, I think they'll sneak a win.
Yeah, and the O'Connor fans will be very happy to know I've tipped the Ospreys by 4, because they just basically, their whole reason for rugby is to do the opposite of what I say. So that's good news. Good news for Connacht fans. Okay, so we're going to leave it there. Thanks again to Mark for joining me today. Be sure to enjoy the match wherever you are. And at the full-time whistle, why not head over to the Harpin and Rugby Facebook page and leave your thoughts and share them on our wrap-up. We'll share them on our wrap-up pod this Sunday evening. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.